Welcome to the situation update for Thursday, December 30th, 2021. Mike Adams here. Thank you for joining me. And the information that I've learned over the last couple of days is beyond alarming. It's almost like game over information, and not in a good way. It just reinforces the total collapse that's coming. It turns out that the globalists have miscalculated, and they have, shall we say, over collapsed the system. They have unleashed way more devastation than they planned. It's spiraling out of control into a self-reinforcing negative feedback loop, and it's going to be bad. So I have let me just say, today's podcast may not be that long because I have already spent 3 hours recording today an emergency short audiobook that I call Ghost World 2022 through 2032. And Ghost World lays out, I don't know, this all coalesced all at once based on what I've learned over the last few days. But Ghost World lays out the picture of what a lot of these abandoned, dead blue cities are going to look like. We're going to see a Mad Max level collapse in certain blue cities. But at the same time, we're going to see a resurgence of freedom, including economic freedom, in the free states, such as the rural areas of red states. So what really became clear to me, and what I've captured in this, it's going to be a free audiobook that you can download, and I'm finishing it like tonight or tomorrow, by the way. And all that's going to be left behind in many of these blue cities is just criminal violence, chaos, child trafficking, drug dealing, criminals shooting each other, looting law-abiding citizens in their homes. And that's why my ebook is called Ghost World. Well, it's a downloadable audiobook plus a transcript that you can download, a PDF file. It's all free. It'll be posted, I don't know, early January. I don't know how early, but I'll keep you posted. So the two Americas that are going to be here, this is why it's so hard to predict the future, even for those people who have remote viewing skills or things like that, even for people who are receiving information, who are, sensitive receivers and so on. The reason that a lot of the predictions are so contradictory is because there are going to be two Americas existing at the same time. One America will be a hell, which is what I just described in the collapsing blue cities, Mad Max scenario, complete lawlessness and chaos and so on. And then there's going to be a rebuilding of America happening at the same time in the free states that are going to exercise very aggressive nullification of central control by Washington, D.C. So what's interesting, in my own analysis of this, what I finally came to realize is that we don't defeat all the evil. We the people, simply decide to build our own civilization and make the evil obsolete in terms of their control over us. So the future of real America, the free states, the red states, rural areas, and so on, the future is going to be a future without fiat currency, a future without federal control, a future of mass nullification, a future of alternative currencies, which may include some kind of electronic currencies or cryptos, may include gold and silver, may include local currencies actually issued by counties and cities or even states, by the way. So we're going to have a multi-currency world of a thriving economy in the red states that will look a lot like a golden age of resurgence at the same time that the blue cities are collapsing into a kind of living hell. So these two things will be happening together over the next decade. That's what has become clear. And that's what this audiobook tries to capture, Ghost World 2022 through 2032. And in that audiobook, by the way, I go through what it's going to be like to live day to day in the new economy. And I've spoken before about some of the new careers, the new professions that will exist, such as professional salvage teams that salvage appliances. There'll be salvage companies that bid on salvage rights to abandoned residential homes and buildings, apartments, as well as commercial buildings and even government buildings, because there'll be so many people dying off in these blue cities. They might find ammunition, jewelry, furniture, and they're going to strip out the copper wires of entire neighborhoods. They're going to actually take out the copper and the aluminum electrical cabling because it's worth so much now that you're actually going to have a new economic institution of sorts. Well, not institution, activity in America that's going to go in and strip mine entire neighborhoods and just get everything out that they can. And then they're going to take those goods and they're going to transport them to the free states, the red states, and then they're going to sell them to the new economy where America is being rebuilt under freedom instead of, insanity and federal lunacy and totalitarianism and so on and so on. The nullification accelerates in 2022. So that's a little preview of what I've captured in this book, that this all kind of coalesced all at once, and I had to record it, the bulk of it, in one day, and that's why my voice sounds a little bit tired at the moment, and that's why this podcast won't be that long. But there is some important news. I will cover it today. Of course, they're denying treatment to people who are white. Of course they are. And we covered that yesterday. Now, from my point of view, there are three big stories that happened yesterday. Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty on 5 of 6 charges. She's found guilty in sex trafficking children. The second major story is that Twitter has banned Dr. Robert Malone. So yes, you get banned on Twitter for publishing headlines of studies, of scientific studies that Twitter doesn't want people to see. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And then in Hong Kong, there was a raid on an independent media outlet there. 200 Hong Kong police raided them, arrested all the people there, shut down the website, deleted all the articles, everything. Gone. And what are they being charged with? Oh, well, questioning the communist leaders. Sedition, basically. So the criminalization of independent thought, of course, this is what China does. This is what communism is all about. I'm going to cover those a little bit here. And I might go into 10 predictions for 2022 that I think are going to shock your psyche. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to cover those tonight. Let's see if my voice holds out and if I have the energy to cover all that. But let's cover these other 3 big stories first. So let's start with Ghislaine Maxwell, however you pronounce her name. She's found guilty on 5 of 6 counts. The judge, of course, has sealed most of the details about the case because obviously this is a case involving a lot of very powerful people who were raping children. And of course, Maxwell worked alongside Jeffrey Epstein, and they were trafficking girls as young as 12 years old. She pleaded not guilty, even though she ran Epstein's operation for at least a decade. So here are the charges that she was charged with. Count 1, conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. She was found guilty on that. Count 2, enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. I know that sounds like the same charge, but the first one is the conspiracy to do that. On the second count, she was found not guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. She's found guilty. Count 4, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. Yes, guilty. Count 5, sex trafficking conspiracy. Guilty. Count 6, sex trafficking of a minor. Guilty. And then let's see. Counts 7 and 8 were perjury charges, and that's going to be covered in a later court case. So she now faces reportedly up to 65 years in prison, having been found guilty on these 5 of these 6 charges. Now, I've heard from just videos on Brighteon, this isn't a super secret source or anything, but I've heard that some people believe that because Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty, that she's going to start naming names. I'm here to say I doubt it. I very much doubt it. I don't think she's going to name names. I don't think there's going to be any leniency. I think that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to be thrown to the wolves just like Jeffrey Epstein. She'll be found dead in prison within a year because they don't want her to talk. Because, oh, look at the other people, the other names that have been brought up, Prince Andrews and so on. They don't want any of that to get out. Very powerful people have to be protected. Powerful, perverted people, apparently. And this is the way the world works because we're living under a corrupt criminal cartel that runs the world, that's running this pandemic, that runs big media, runs big tech, runs governments, rigs everything. It's an entire global corrupt system of criminals and child rapists, by the way. And yes, the child rape, the child trafficking, it's all real. It's all been going on for decades. They tried to cover it up. They tried to claim it was a conspiracy theory. Nope. The trafficking continues right now. Hundreds of thousands of children go missing in the U.S. every year. And hundreds of thousands more are trafficked across the open border. And that's just America we're talking about. There is a sick, perverted kind of meat market. There's a whole underground economy of these powerful politicians and governors and members of Congress and CEOs of powerful big technology companies and so on and so forth. And they rape little children. And it's all true. And I don't think that Ghislaine Maxwell is going to blow the lid on this whole thing. Because, of course, everybody involved in the prosecution, the court judge and so on, all ties back to the deep state. So it's all been controlled. So that's my take on that story. They just confirmed in the mind of Robert Malone that this is a global conspiracy to silence important scientific and medical voices. Twitter just guaranteed that Robert Malone is now with us. He's on our team now. Because, it's so obvious at this point. You can't deny it anymore. Malone wasn't out there. He wasn't hawking things that might have been called conspiracy theories. He wasn't saying that, there are aliens trying to work with globalists to depopulate planet Earth. None of that. He was just citing scientific studies. And he got banned for that. So now Malone knows exactly what we've known for so long, that it is a control grid. They do suppress truth at every opportunity, and it is a hyper-controlled thought police / speech police system that's running big tech. And I bet you that Robert Malone knows a lot more than what he's willing to talk about. I bet you he knows this is a global depopulation effort. That's just not his focus, which is fine. I'm willing to interview all kinds of different people on all kinds of different topics. Let's talk about nanotechnology. Let's talk about exotic transfer of technology from non-terrestrial sources. Let's talk about it. For me, that's okay. For Robert Malone, he needs to stick with his area of focus, and he's doing it. And by the way, we built Brighteon.social and launched it and have it up and running years before the Trump social platform that doesn't yet exist and yet somehow is valued at billions of dollars, which seems really strange to me. Our system actually has been up and running for a couple of years. So, and our system, we've already done all that. We are years ahead of Trump's team. And yet somehow, Truth Social is worth billions of dollars, even though it doesn't exist yet. I never understood that. Doesn't make sense to me. But personally, I don't care how much something is said to be worth. To me, the value is to be able to allow people like Robert Malone to speak. Probably hundreds, I would imagine. Or how many interviews with Dr. Bhakti, or interviews with all the top doctors and people. Dr. Peter McCullough, for example, I interviewed him myself. That's why we built a platform. And by the way, I think it was it the New Yorker that went after Dan Bongino yesterday? Big attack piece, hit piece on Dan Bongino, which is very funny because their main complaint about Dan Bongino is that they can no longer silence him because Dan Bongino has gone in with the people at Rumble and I think Parler, and Bongino is building platforms to allow people to speak freely and making the old platforms obsolete. And this just drives the liberals absolutely batty. They can't stand the fact that Bongino is building his own platforms. And of course, I love the fact that Bongino is building his own platforms. And, I haven't agreed with Bongino on every little thing. Doesn't matter. I absolutely agree with Dan Bongino on building his own platforms. And I hope that Bongino becomes a billionaire with Rumble and Parler and whatever else he's into. And I think he very well may. And that's great. I'm 100% for it. And I hope that Bongino uses these platforms in the same spirit that I have platforms like Brighteon, or that Andrew Torba has Gab, which is to not censor people and to allow all speech that is legal. I mean, we all have limits. We don't allow illegal, videos like how to make a bomb or videos that are depicting killing people and things like that. So we all have some kind of limits. However, we fully support the freedom to speak, and we hope that Bongino exercises that, and he seems increasingly committed to it from what I can tell, which is great. So also the hit pieces on Bongino, they don't work anymore like they used to. You know why? Because nobody believes the mainstream media anymore. I mean, nobody who's sane. Maybe lunatic leftists believe the mainstream media, but they also believe that, women can have a penis, So Dan Bongino, he's just doing his thing. Just like Joe Rogan is doing his thing. Alex Jones doing his thing. We're doing our thing. And we're all independent, and we're all building our own platforms and infrastructure. Like Alex Jones has band.video and what is it? freeworldnews.tv, I think. They're rolling out different domains at different times. We're all building our own platforms because this is the answer, decentralization. This is true grassroots freedom. What we are doing and what you are supporting in supporting us, by the way. So I welcome all these amazing voices and all these amazing platforms, and BitChute and Odyssey and Rumble and all of them. The only time I've ever criticized any other platform is when I thought they were maybe engaged in censorship. But I think right now there's a lot of reevaluation going on about how we have to be dedicated to this fight. So I think everybody's on the side of freedom. I mean, everybody that I just mentioned and some others as well. So at least that's my prayer, that we all just stand for freedom. And in that context, I am thrilled to be part of this movement, to rebuild human society and reshape human freedom, or just recapture human freedom, I guess is a better term for it. And here we are. So, by the way, getting back to Robert Malone, if so, I guess that would just be glenngreenwald.substack.com. So that's the convention. There's a lot of good people on Substack. I wonder who's behind Substack, actually. That's a good question. And maybe we'll find out. All right, now the third big story, and this is covered by the Epoch Times and many other publications. U.S. officials and rights groups rebuke Hong Kong's silencing of another independent media. It's raising alarm among world officials and rights groups who urge the international community to help safeguard what little freedom is left in the once vibrant city. Over 200 national security officers on December 28th raided the offices of prominent pro-democracy newspaper Stand News, arresting 6 of its current and former executives, accusing them of engaging in the, quote, conspiracy to publish seditious publications. And it would be like a Bundy Ranch standoff or something. You know, that's America, and that's Texas also. But in Hong Kong, of course, they have no Second Amendment, they have no First Amendment, and so the CCP is just arresting and criminally charging and then torturing and raping and organ harvesting independent journalists. And obviously, it's evil. And obviously, we should speak out about this. We should raise the alarm. We should denounce China. But just as importantly, we should denounce every single senator, governor, member of Congress, bureaucrat, and company CEO, including tech companies, who is engaged with communist China. Everywhere across America, we've got to defend ourselves, and we've got to speak out and speak the truth, which is what Dr. Robert Malone is doing. It's what Steve Kirsch is doing. And remember, Steve Kirsch is a former Democrat. He even said recently he has donated $20 million to the Democrats over the years, and now he can't stand what the Democrats have become. That's the kind of ally that we need on the side of truth and freedom and scientific literacy and so on. And so every time, think about it, every time that Twitter bans these people, or every time the left-wing media runs a hit piece against these people, all they do is solidify these people joining Team Humanity, which is our team. That's it. And that's why I interview Democrats like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And that's, look, I don't care what letter is besides someone's name. Del Bigtree was a former progressive in California. Mickey Willis, he's publicly said, he was part of the camera crew for Bernie Sanders, I believe. I think he traveled with Bernie Sanders. I mean, so many people have awakened now who were former leftists or progressives or whatever you want to call them. I was more of a progressive back in my college days, which was a while ago now. But a lot of people were just recently progressives, and they've awakened to what's going on in the world. And think about this. The Democrats are losing their base because classical liberals can't stand what the Democrats have become. Because the Democrats, at least the establishment Democrats, have become authoritarians. They've become lunatics. That's why this Penn State swimmer, this biological male swimmer with the giant flipper feet that's beating all the women in women's swimming, this guy is driving home the point in the minds of many, many people. They're like, this is insane. You got a 6'3" tall guy, long arms and flipper feet, just beating the crap out of women in the pool. I mean, not literally beating the women up, but I mean, beating them in the competition. Although you do have also transgenders in MMA that are literally beating women for profit. Just actually punching women in the face, and then they claim to be winners. And the insanity of this is causing people to flip the bird to the Democrat Party and say, you Dems, you Democrats, you lost your minds. We can't be part of this any longer. And that's what happened, I think, to Steve Kirsch and many others. and it's going to continue to happen. I know people who are in the superfoods industry in California who are desperately trying to get out and they can't. But what they see around them is a world gone insane. And they see it every day and they can't believe it. And it's like the towns and the suburbs in which they live have become these like mental psych wards with thought police and everything. And they see it every day. And yet, just because of circumstances and ties to the community, they can't leave. Well, I would urge these people, leave before it goes full Stalinist, by the way. You know, you should leave before California has a Maoist moment and starts hunting down. And, you know, they're going to try to slaughter Christians and slaughter conservatives and so on. Yeah, that day is coming because these people on the left are completely criminally insane. So I'm not a member of either party. I'm only a member of Team Humanity. All right, moving on to the next topic. And look at this. I'm already 40 minutes into this. I can't believe it. I want to give a big thumbs up to an author of the Blue State Conservative. His name is David Robb, writes for All News Pipeline. The actual, the 6 million fatalities that are typically claimed for taking place in World War II. I guess when you look at any number in history, like 20 million Russians killed by the Nazis, I guess some people could dispute that number as well. How many people died in Vietnam? You know, is it 50,000? And I'm convinced that that's the case. And that's one of the main reasons why I recorded my audiobook, Ghost World, which I still need to just wrap that up and get that into production for you. It's astonishing. This is one of those cases where I'm freaking myself out. That's when you know it's bad. When the health ranger freaks himself out over what he just recorded, it's like, oh, it's bad. Yeah, but remember, I'm also saying there are going to be two Americas. So there's a good side, you know, where we can rebuild society, we can nullify federal lunacy, we can essentially establish a new America in the free states, the red states, the rural areas with alternative money and transaction systems. We just nullify the whole insane left-wing lunacy, fascist, Marxist, communist system that's trying to mass murder all of us. Just nullify it. And by the way, that's what Dan Bongino's trying to do. That's what I'm doing with Brighteon. That's what Andrew Torba is doing, and so on. So we're doing all the right things. We are building a new civilization, folks. And the new civilization will coexist with the collapse of the old civilization. So it's interesting when the globalists talk about their great reset. What if their great reset didn't destroy everything? What if it just pissed people off enough to build their own systems that aren't affected by fiat currency? How about that? What if we just denounced the central banks and did our own local currency on a state level or a city level or a county level, or even not even using government at all? What if we did that, huh? What if we had gold-backed crypto or food-backed crypto? You know, food is money, that kind of thing. Folks, all the solutions are readily available to us. I believe that we have to be at the right location. We have to physically be in the right place as all of this goes down. Because if you're in the wrong place, you're going to get slaughtered by the collapsing blue cities and blue states and corrupt, bankrupt federal government and all of that. But those of us who survive that, we're already in the process of rebuilding a whole new infrastructure for freedom and liberty and Christian values and humanity. That's what I'm into. Team Humanity, as I've said here before. You know, the big realization in all of this, folks, is that the deep state only has power over you. You are the answer to tyranny. Look, we waited for Trump to solve the tyranny problems, you know, for 4 years. Nothing got done. Stop waiting for others to solve these problems. Stand up now peacefully and say, we do not comply. We will not go along with this. We do not give you our power. We will seek out and use alternative systems for everything. We will make your corrupt, centralized swamp obsolete. You are the answer. You are the savior that you've been waiting for, at least in this realm. And you get your energy and your divinity and your creativity from God, right? So, I mean, God is the ultimate savior, but you are the earthly savior that you've been waiting for. So wait no more. It's time for all of us to stand up and assert our liberty, our freedom, to assert our right to speak, our right to exist, our right to say no, our right to body autonomy. And that is how we move forward and rebuild society. It starts with us, starts with the individual. That's why I'm so thankful that you're supporters of what we do, because this is the tipping point moment, that realization that no one's coming to save you. We save ourselves, and you might as well start now. So I want to thank you for listening today. I know I did not get to the 10 predictions. Perhaps I'll do that tomorrow. We'll see. Also, the Health Ranger store is still closed for the rest of this week. We'll be reopening next week after the new year. And expect some big bombshells on January 3rd, by the way. Just saying. Watch January 3rd for something interesting to happen. When is that? What is the 3rd? Oh, that's Monday. Yes. Okay. Yeah, keep an eye on that day. And we'll see where this goes. It's going to be an interesting year, but this is the year we reclaim our humanity, our divinity. This is the year 2022. All right. So thank you for listening. Of course, I'm Mike Adams. I want to say God bless you. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all that you have done to help us do this, building these platforms and speaking the truth and so on. And I did not imagine a year ago that I would still be doing a daily situation update to this day, but here we are. We are not yet free. We have not yet solved the issue